Good morning, everybody. My name is Caleb DePaulis, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation on how to do a plugin on Nagios XI using NCPA. So what we're going to cover today is what is the Nagios plugin, what to make for a plugin, choosing a language for your plugin, and then I'm going to demo how you can create a plugin and how you can configure it into Nagios XI. So first off, what is a Nagios plugin? In simple terms, you can just code something up and monitor whatever you want. You can just add that into Nagios. It's very helpful. It adds a lot of versatility into the Nagios XI software that anything you want to cover and monitor, you can monitor just through a little bit of coding. What do you want to make? Make something that lots of people will need. I mean, if you see on forums that, hey, I need to be able to monitor this, or I need to be able to monitor this, you might want to make a plugin for that, because that would make the most sense. Or just make something you need. Let's say you want to monitor something on your computer because something's been going down a lot recently. You might just want to make a quick plugin, and you can track that on Nagios XI. Choosing a language. I like to recommend Python or Bash. Those two. Python's a very easy, intuitive language for beginners. Bash I like personally because it's a little closer to your operating system, so I like to think it works better. Or any coding language that you're good at, or not, because you can use so many online resources, you can Google stuff, you can use AI. Makes it really easy to code whatever you need to. So, I'm going to show you how to create a plugin, and this is a disclaimer. This process is going to be for Bash scripts only. So if you are using Python, Java, C, anything related to that, it might be a totally different setup to this. So I'll just show you what I have for a Bash plugin. So I have my Bash script on my Nagios XI terminal. So I'm just going to get into it here. Alright. So here is where a bunch of our check commands are that are already installed on Nagios, and I just threw mine into here. So I'm just going to nano into this. It's called check CPU hog. And pretty much what it does, kind of scroll down a little bit. So I start with some default thresholds for the critical and warning thresholds, so when your Nagios XI will start to say, hey, something's up. And then I allow operators, so on the command line you can do -W-C to change what your thresholds are. This line right here, it gets your top CPU process and all the data about that. And here it parses through that to get what's that percentage of usage that process is using and the name of that process. Down here I just have an error thing, and that's if it can't get any of that information, it will just send an unknown code to your Nagios XI so you can tell that something's going on there. And then all the way down here at the bottom, this is where a lot of the magic is. This is what actually gives you your critical warning or okay. So it will check, hey, is my CPU usage over my critical threshold? If it is, it tells you that process name and how much it's using and what your critical threshold was. And it does the same thing for the warning, and for the okay, it'll just tell you, hey, right now this is your top process, it's using about this much, but everything's under control right now. So what I'm going to do is I want to track my log server. I want to make sure the CPU is not being overloaded, or if I need to give it some more CPU power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the secure copy protocol to just quickly send that over to my log server. And that's just a long command. Any way to get it into your folders onto whatever machine you're trying to monitor, that's what I would recommend. For me, it's going to be getting it into the NCPA plugins folder. And then I'm just going to type in the password. And I just got a message saying that it looks like it transferred over. So now if I go into my Nagios log server, I will go into that file, and we will be able to see that that check CPU hog.sh is now in there. So what I like to do, first off, it's important to make sure you have an executable So you want to use the change mode command, and the +X makes it an executable. And boom, if you get no messages, that's usually a good sign. So now I'm just going to run it first off to make sure it's actually running as default. And then I want to check the commands, so check the warning if I have it at 20, and I have the critical high. Make sure that's doing what it's supposed to, and if I lower the critical, make sure I'm getting all the messages, everything's working, and that's usually a good sign. Next thing I want to do is configure the firewall. Your NCPA works through port 5693, I believe, and that you want to just make sure you have that running. In doing that, you want to do the sudo firewall-cmd command, and I'm going to do my zone equal to public, and then I'm going to list my ports. As you can see, I have 5693 going through TCP. If that's not the case, it's a very simple fix. You will just have to do sudo firewall command. I like to do the zone public just to be safe. Then you're going to add port, and then type in the port and how you want it to go through. So I'm just going to use TCP, and then -- permanent. And I get a warning because I already have it enabled, but you would just get that success if you didn't already have it going through. So that's a good sign. And now I'm going to make sure I can actually call this through my Nagios terminal before I actually try and configure anything on XI, just for safety. So what you're going to do is you're going to do check ncpa.py, and that is the command that will kind of go over to your whatever machine you're trying to monitor on, and that will be like, hey, can you try running this plugin and give me whatever results I get from there. So I'm going to do -host, and I'm going to type in the IP address. And then you also have a token that you will set up using -t, so I'm just going to type in the token for that. The port you want to put in, and then doing this -m, I'll do plugins, and then check CPU hog.sh, and then you can do -a if you want arguments. I'm just going to do my warning as 20. Mine allows it so you can do either a warning, a critical, or you can just decide to just keep the defaults. So I'll just do that, and I get a warning because I put my threshold lower, so that shows it's working perfectly fine. So next up, we are going to show you how to configure this into your Nagios XI. So I'm going to go over to my Nagios XI here on Chrome. First thing you want to do is you want to go into your core config manager, and you're going to add a new command. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to call it check CPU hog NCPA, and the command for this I have down here. All right, so this will change depending on what you have, depending on what type of file you're using. If using check NCPA, it's a Python file, so you have to run Python 3. It will grab your host address, this argument 1, this is so I can actually add my token in there, and then argument 2 is to add my warning and critical arguments. So I'm just going to save that, and I'm going to apply configuration. And now we're going to go to services, and we're going to add a new service. The service, I'm just going to do the same that I did before. And I'm just going to call it CPU hog NCPA. And now you want to go over here to your check command, and you want to find the command that you just added in through Nagios XI. And now I'm going to type in my token. I'm going to do a low warning, a low critical, just so I can make sure I'm getting my error messages. And now I'm going to manage hosts, and I have my log server already in here, so I can just add this service to the host. Now I just have to set a few more required arguments in here. These you just have to set to whatever you desire. And now I'm just going to save it. I'm going to apply the configuration and make sure everything looks good. And perfect. So now I can go back to the home page. I'm going to go to my log server, check my services, and now you can see the new service that we just added. I'm going to force an immediate check, make sure everything's working properly. And if it is, there we go. I have a warning since Java is using 27% of my CPU. And so now everything looks good on here. All right, so what did we cover today? We covered what is a Nagios plugin, what do you want to make for like a Nagios plugin, choosing the language that you want to write your plugin in, and then I showed you how that creating process works and how you configure it into Nagios XI.